Have you tried new Midnight Floral Foam from Smithers Oasis? Hi, I'm Sharon McGukin, and I'm so glad you're joining me today. I wanted to share some new tips and techniques for using Midnight Floral Foam, and I'm here with my friends at DVFlora and Smithers Oasis, and we've got news for you. You may have tried the blocks and bricks and loved those, but we've got new products coming out, especially for event work. So we're going to go through everyday design, creative ideas, event work, and a discussion of the foam. Here's the real fun part. Unlike stage presentations where you just get the information, in this event, you get to ask your questions. So I have my friends with me. They'll help you ask me questions, and I'll try my best to answer them. So as we begin talking about Midnight Floral Foam, what's the most exciting thing about it? Well, it's kind of like the little black dress of foam. We've taken the green out of the foam and put it back into your wallet because this is a sophisticated look. This is a fun party kind of look because the foam disappears once it gets into the vase. Let's look at this plastic vase, or you could use a glass vase. You could use a plain and simple one that you already have in your own collection and add in just the block of foam. It goes in gray, and then the water wicks up, and when it's fully saturated, it's party black. So that makes the flowers shine and the foam disappear. Since we were doing this one for a party, I took some of my U-glue, added it to the side of the container, pulled off the outer piece of paper, and added my sequin wrap right on top of it. Now we're dressed up for the evening. But if you wanted to do just an everyday design, you could leave the plain container. How many times have you had containers that had like those interesting textures on the side or swirls of color in the glass, and that's kind of lost with the design? Not with Midnight Floral Foam. It makes it just pop. So let's add some flowers in our everyday design and talk about using Midnight Foam. One of the advantages is it can save you time and money. When you're working with foams, it's very possible that you have extra flowers in that add to the expense of it. With floral foam that's the color of black, then you can just very simply create your designs, leaving space that shows. It just disappears in the design. And then once that disappears, the foam has more space between the flowers. That allows you to use 25% less flowers. Some people say 50% for event work, but being conservative, let's go 25. Then once you create your design in your foam, you can also tell when it's time to add more water because the foam reverts to gray as the water wicks back out of it. So it lets you know when to water your friends the flowers. Now, working with the foam, you don't have to cover with all the greens that we did before. That saves money. Also, what's the most expensive part of designing in a shop? Labor. So it cuts down on labor because there's less number of insertions. So it's just a win-win all around. Just kind of a sophisticated look. Kind of updates the style. Now, as I'm creating this everyday design, you'll notice that I vary the heights of the flowers so that each bloom's face shows and we get value for each flower added. If you're asking about biodegradability of the foam, it's 567 days in U.S. landfills. That's pretty great in Earth time. And it's not like plastics that can't be biodegrade. It biodegrades in about a year and a half. So that is great news. Also, when it comes to using the foam, it's just pennies more for a great new look. So that adds to the value of your design. Okay, I'm adding in my hydrangea. One question I often get with hydrangea is, how do you keep it fresh? I always like to remove every leaf from the hydrangea, even those little tiny ones, so it doesn't wick the water away from the bloom. Then I want to come in and cut the stem, dip it in quick dip, and then add it to my water that has Express flower foods added to the water. It's so important that your containers and your vases be just as clean that you could drink out of them, because your flowers like clean water too, and it helps them to live longer. By adding flowers into the water that has flower food in it, you're giving them a great start for longer lasting blooms. Now I'm adding my roses, and I want you to see that each one is posed at a different height. so the value of that flower head is shown. We'll come around with just a few little spray roses, and it's done. A simple design with midnight floral foam. Now, one question I often get is this like the older rainbow foam? Not at all. Remember, rainbow would not allow you to saturate it very fast. It was kind of resistant to taking in water. And then it was a little more dense when you're adding your flowers in. Midnight floral foam is just like the green floral foam. The density is the same and the water saturation rate is the same. Just put it on top of the water and let it sink into the water for 90 seconds. You don't want to push it in. If you push it in, then you can perhaps get some dry pockets. So we don't want to do that. Just let it sink in on its own. So here's an everyday design in midnight floral foam. Moving forward, let's do this first. We're going to talk about our design rings. I've always loved design rings. The main reason I love design rings is because you can have this extra space in your design, which is money saving. A lot of times I'll use black rocks, or perhaps you have a hurricane globe, or you have a figurine you want to use, or it might even be in the larger size, an urn for cremation. So you just put the flowers along the outside of the design. That cuts down on the number of flowers you need to use. So adding that in, I've left this foam so you can see in the back that it is the design ring. So how else could we design this? In this particular one, we've grouped the materials together. The difference between grouping and clustering is that grouping is how they grow naturally in a garden. Clustering is where you put them so close together you can't see the difference in the blooms. So where I've grouped these, I have clustered the carnations and grouped these in the mini callus. So that works well too. So what else could we do with a floral foam design ring in midnight? You'll see that I've taken the design ring and I've taken an aspidistra leaf, wrapped it around the side of the foam, tucked it into the foam, wrapped it around. I can adhere this with U-glue, with greening pins, or I can do a combination of the two. Then I just keep wrapping it around and wrap on the inside. Now I only have this much space to cover in flowers. So if I want to do a long and low, I might add candles or something to the side. If I just want to do a simple circular, then I might keep it in this position. So my flowers for this particular design, I'll just add in. You always want to keep your flowers in water as you design. You don't want to lay them out onto your design table because you want to be able to access them very quickly. And they need to stay in water to drink. Now, one thing when it comes to putting your flowers in water, then you need to remember, clean the buckets with DCD, turn them upside down to dry. If you sit them onto the floor, you can get the germs back in, and then when you stack up your dry buckets, you just stack them back in. So what you want to do is turn it upside down so that the water drains out and you're not adding germs to the bucket. So then you want to take your flowers, give them a cut, put them in quick dip, then put them in the water with Express. A great idea is to mark your bucket on the inside with 5 to 7 inch height, however much water you want to put in there. And then send a sample of your water to Floralife and ask them to test it. And then Christy Carter there, the scientist, will tell you what exactly is the amount you need to use in your water of the flower food. Then you put the flowers in, let them drink for a few minutes to hydrate, and then place them in the cooler to storage until you do it again. If you have any questions regarding that, then you'll want to be able to access the Floralife website. Now, my friends at DVFlora are sharing all of these gorgeous flowers with us, and guess what the great news is? Today they're setting up a contest, and if you comment, you get, when using your customer code, then you get to register, possibly win, one of 3 cases of Midnight Floral Foam. And if you order now on DVFlora, it puts your name in that contest. So jump in. We're going to be here for an hour, and we're going to be back again at 6:30 this evening. So I hope you'll join us then for even different things. And ask your questions. That's why we're all here. Go to dvflora.com and you'll be able to find these products and place your order right away. They're the first people to carry them, and you're the first people to learn about them. So using my Midnight Floral Foam in my design ring, I'm just popping my flowers right down into it. The roses I'm grouping, meaning that they are different spaces between them. And then this adds focus to the flowers by placing it around on each side. Here's a quick tip. If you are working with mini callas and the stems aren't really strong, or daffodils or tulips or hyacinths, you can always take a toothpick, because it's such a small space. Insert the toothpick, insert the mini calla into the foam. Be sure the stem itself connects, not just the toothpick. And then the toothpick will swell in the water, the wood will expand, and it will help to hold the flower in place and wick water up to it. So that works well in any of the really tender stems. I'm adding a variety of pinks. I like to do a monochromatic design because it really showcases the flowers. Everything just kind of blends beautifully. Look at these sweet peas. I was so amazed in the cooler here at DVFlora that it was just beautiful flowers, rack after rack after rack. Such a pleasure to design with. And they have those flowers available to you. Now, I also do a blog for Oasis that will share tips on using Midnight Foam in the upcoming weeks. And so you can access that at oasisfloralproducts.com/floral-ideas/. And the great news is you can also find those blogs on DVFlora.com. Go to the website and you'll see where they position their blog as well. And they will incorporate our designs into their blog section. Okay, I'm adding in these last little design elements. Texture is one of the major things that we are looking for this season. Texture, form, and color are always the top elements. This year it's texture. And think of texture as the richness of design. It's like the fur coat of design, or like a chenille bedspread, or a nice soft blanket that you curl up with. That's what texture is in flowers as well. It's the tactile property that pulls the eye into the design. So this season, if it's a weed it's in, and we want to pull in all those extra textures that have the look of weediness with our commercial grown flowers, so they're longer lasting. Be sure as you finish off a design such as this that you use Finishing Touch or Crown and Glory, the anti-transparents, to keep the flowers fresh. What's the difference? Finishing Touch feeds the flowers. It has hydration and flower foods that keep the flowers growing and opening and becoming even fresher looking. Crown and Glory keeps the flowers. It has a polymer in it that it's not a wax property, but it's a wax-like property in that it holds the flowers in the shape that they're in. So think corsages, bouquets, boutonnieres, things that you want to stay right in the state of freshness that they are when you create the design. Now again, we're open for your questions, so jump in because we're moving to a new section. This was every day. And I can't encourage you enough to use Midnight for every day. Again, it's just adding that little bit of a sophisticated look to your designs and something a little different than perhaps your customer is seeing elsewhere. One quick tip I wanted to give you is that when you're using a black container like the Lomi containers in all different sizes, then you can add your Midnight foam to it. And then a lot of times I like to just take the foam, put it in hot wax or hot glue, stick it right to the Lomi container. That adheres it, but if I want extra strength, I'll add a grid of waterproof tape across it. And when it comes to the grids, I want to be sure that I leave the inside open, more of a tic-tac-toe than an X. If you do an X, you block that central access area, so you want to leave that space open. The Oasis Midnight Foam and the Lomis in black are perfect companions. So now we're going to move to inspirations. That's the fun thing about working with the floral foam, is that I'm all about trash for cash. I like what is usually thrown away, thrown into my wallet instead. So I just added a little bit of my floral mesh. I love the floral mesh. When it first came out, I used it around my tree. I decorated my tree in red and gold at Christmas, and then I used garlands of it around the tree. And my nephew said, "Aunt Sharon, were you afraid somebody was going to steal your ornaments?" So it kind of looks like a protectant, but it really is just a design element. So what I want to do with this, I took all the excess pieces that I had when I trimmed off my foam, and I cut them into different shapes. So I cut rectangles, sticks, circles, lots of things that we could use. It looks like it's my wake-up call. So now I'm going to add my flowers just right down into the foam. It becomes a part of the artistry as opposed to just everyday look. I'm adding the Hydrangea because we know we love these textural flowers. But the nice thing is we're not just doing like the wildflower look these days, we're blending it, mixing the elegant and the exotic along with the everyday. So I add a couple of little orchids. I love orchids. They're long lasting and they just kind of make a statement of elegance. Couldn't resist this DVFlora sweet peas. Look at that, isn't that gorgeous? We're so lucky that this is our work, because how many people go to work and say, "Ah, isn't that gorgeous," day after day over their products? I don't think you could get that with a lot of products, but with flowers, it's so easy to love what you work with. Now, adding a little bit of a mini calla bloom just to tuck that yellow right in. You'll notice that I'm using a knife. If you don't use a knife, like the Smithers Oasis knife, I highly recommend that you do, because it opens the waterways of the flowers and helps them to be fresher. If you're using clippers, you kind of close off those waterways, so we want to open that up some. Now, with OASIS Midnight Floral Foam, the biodegradability of the materials makes it a really nice thing for the environment. So in that, with every year, just increases how well it blends in to our resources. So we want to remember that it's a great way to hold our flowers, a great way to make trendy designs and things that are very on target. I think I'm going to save this for one of my other arrangement friends. I think I have enough here, because with Midnight Floral Foam, I don't need as many flowers. If I had done a structured foam and a green floral foam that I had to cover all of the green, I would have needed all those flowers. This is how much money I saved just on this one little arrangement. And it's a really full arrangement. So it's not that you can't create on-trend designs and fill them if you want to. You absolutely can. It's that you don't have to. Now you have the designer's choice. So I took my floral mesh, clipped away all except these little prongs, and I'm adding them into the design just to give it a little bit of a different element. This is with floral mesh. It comes in gold, copper, and silver. Okay. And this is my Vanna for the day. Buck, thanks Buck. Thanks for your help. Everybody needs a Vanna. Okay, in our creative ideas, what we want to do is look at how the different ways that we can use the foam. And this particular one, I took an essentials container, and the excess foam that where I trimmed away, I just crumbled around to give a little texture at the base. Then I took shapes and cut them. Now, of course, every Southern girl has her biscuit cutters. Most just don't travel with them. But with this biscuit cutters, I finally got out of the kitchen and I went to the workroom and I just used them to make little shapes. So for example, this is a shape made with this cutter. Think about using cookie cutters and such. You'll want to use something that's kind of deep so it sinks in, but lots of different things you could do. Think Christmas when you use Christmas shapes, or think Valentine's Day when you use hearts or flowers for Easter. So it works really well. Then when I wanted to add a little brightness to the design, I decided to add my colorful bind wire in here just to give it a little bit of a pop and carry the eye through the design. Now I used small Cowie picks and toothpicks to add that in. We'll show you later in the broadcast the sheet that we cut these shapes from, and you'll understand why I'm saying that about the depth of it. Now I just want to add some yellow flowers to really make this design pop. So my foam is created. Now if you're doing this for a special event, then you'll want to, in advance of your event, you'll want to go ahead and do your foam shapes. Or just on a slower part of the day, or when the driver comes in and is kind of waiting around for more designs, let them cut. I started to consider this as a craft project after I got started cutting, because it was just kind of fun to cut all the different shapes. So now you'll see that we want our shapes to show, so I'm not going to cover everything all together. I'm just going to add a few little, I love adding the Crispidia. Again, it's back to that texture thing. We just can't get enough texture this year. Good sharp cuts, cleaning away the foliages so the flowers go clean into the foam using our knife. Now, one trick I always suggest using, if you're not accustomed to using a knife and you're trying to change over, one thing that I encourage you to do is put 6 Band-Aids on your thumb. How that works is that you put the Band-Aids on, and every time you cut, you'll cut a Band-Aid. And then you cut and you'll cut another. And when you realize one day suddenly you made your whole arrangement and you never cut the Band-Aid, then you know the pressure of your knife, and then you don't have to have any protection anymore. So that's the best way to learn to use a knife. Always want to keep your knives good and sharp though, so that they do a clean cut on the flower. Adding in our last DVFlora flowers. How lucky we are to get to use them today. And we're ready for your questions. Now, one question that I often get is, does the black foam, does it saturate just as quickly as it does with the other foam? Absolutely. Just as quickly, holds just as strongly, and makes an arrangement just as beautifully. The difference is, look how the foam and the container disappeared, and now what pops? The flowers. And that's what your customer is looking for, beautiful flowers popping in their design. So that's something to consider. Thank you. Now, I can go with other shapes. I did some little sticks, and I did some little rectangles. You saw I had circles and squares on the last one. So Western design is always based on geometry. Geometric form is the base of what we do. So we just have taken it a little further using our geometric forms in our design. A shout out to Donald Yim. He's the one that inspired me to do these particular designs. He's done it great, and I have an upcoming blog I'm writing on Donald's designs, so you'll have to check in for that. You're going to love seeing what all he's done with Midnight Floral Foam.
Sharon, what's the greenery in the arrangement?
This is Brunia, and this was green trick dianthus. So we're just going for things that are very textural. And then this is blue thistle or Hydrangea. I always love it because it has such a nice texture, but it has a good form to it. Okay, so before we move from this section, I wanted to reiterate Midnight Floral Foam. It adheres it saturates with water in exactly the same length of time as green foam. You can get by with 25, maybe 50% of your flowers because it doesn't have to be covered. This makes it great for event work, which we'll talk about later. It also allows you to have just a new kind of sassier look in your designs. You see I keep putting extra flowers back.
Does the color come off in your hands or just color the water?
The color does come off into the water, Midnight Floral Foam, just like you could see some of the color from green or the rainbow foams also. But that, if you put just the right amount of water into your foams, then you won't have a lot of excess runoff. For example, a brick of floral foam holds 2 quarts of water. So instead of just a huge bucket of water, it's a good idea just to fill the foam with exactly what you need, the 2 quarts. In fact, when I am doing containers in advance for like a large event, I like to just go ahead and foam my containers. I would take the square at the bottom, dip it in hot glue, put it in the container, and then I can just fill just that container up with water and let it sit overnight waiting for me. It saturates in 90 seconds, but I'm an old florist. I like it if it sits a long time. So you can see how this began to pop, and look at the texture. We have the smooth against the rough, we have the pointed against the round, and then we have the flat little bricks and sticks of the floral foam. So suddenly we have just a really textural form that has to be noticed. And when you have a lot of flowers that go to one person for an event or something, it's so important that yours stand out and are noticed. Continuing with this, we're going to add some more shapes now. So in this particular one, I have my brick of foam, and then I have some rectangles, some circles, my biscuit cutter form, and I've mixed it all up. When I went for my equisetum, I loved the little ends of that, so I clipped a few of those to fill up the space. But notice I didn't fill the entire thing, and that is where my savings of time and money come. Dianthus gives me that warm, fuzzy feeling with a green trick. And this is a trick, being able to make your arrangements more fun just by the forms. I'm using a black loamy tray for this particular design. I just think the loamy trays are great with it, and a lot of fun to design with. That's where we're really lucky. We get to do things with our work that's fun, and I find that Midnight Floral Foam is. Now at DV, when I was working, DVFlora, when I was working on all of these designs, I found that a really important thing was the bright popping colors of the flowers. It's so nice to be able to showcase those. It's kind of like wearing a black dress and having a really great necklace that just pops up as an accessory. The flowers become the accessory here as well. Popping in our yellow, because we like bright dancing ladies. And you'll see that the flowers are kind of terraced on all different levels. That brings it up closer to the eye of the viewer. Oops, he escaped my foam. Back in there he goes. Look at this. Isn't that gorgeous? I can put just one of these in different spaces and it's enough because they're big and beautiful. Now, don't forget the contest. Remember, 3 free cases of floral foam tiles if you order now from DVFlora.com, and if you comment and use your customer code. We want to hear from you. You sure are being quiet. Don't make me start over.
Hey Sharon, we can show close-ups afterwards, right, of all the arrangements?
Yes,
Okay.
I would love for you to do that.
Okay.
Okay, here's our color. Look how that pops. So I took, I hope you can see that. I took the foam, again, shout out Donald Yim. I took the floral foam and just sliced it in the end with a big long knife, and then just angled them in a brick tray. And I'll show you a brick tray later in the live to let you see. Brick trays come in 3 sizes, in a single, a double, and a triple set, so we can add their foam. And we'll show you that later. But then all I need, oh, here it is. Thank you, Buck. Magic on stage. So here's what the brick tray looks like. I think these are fabulous for the foam because See how it is gray, and then when it gets water, it turns into midnight to black. So what it does is then it becomes all the same color. So just by doing all the slices, adding again at different angles, it creates a different artistry for the design.
How far ahead would you recommend designing for weddings?
Now, what I would do on weddings, the question is, how far in advance do you recommend designing for weddings? What I think is that you have a different thing for each day that you do. For example, on Mondays, you do bows and prep your containers, get them all ready and all. And then as each day goes on, you do different things. So Tuesdays then, you can begin to pull together all your props and have them all boxed up. Then Wednesdays you get in your flowers. Thursdays you can do personal flowers, soak your foams for all of your designs. And then Fridays you can do rehearsal dinner and wedding, or maybe you back that up on Thursday also. And then what you do is gradually do it. Set up a work schedule where it's added into business every day. But you can make corsages, boutonnieres, and bouquets on Thursdays if you're using Crown and Glory or Finishing Touch. And then I like to make the bride's bouquet on the morning of the wedding. I just feel like it's just fresh, and it kind of gives me pleasure to make her bouquet that very morning. It's like her day, and you want to start out with that. So, but the trick is you really have to do all of that extra work ahead of time. You don't want to be on one day trying to accomplish everything. Saturdays should be set up should be reserved simply for setup. Now, a lot of designs, and we'll show you one later, have to be made on site due to size, because right now the consumer loves big, gorgeous arrangements. Doesn't that make us happy? And so you'll want to have plenty of time on that day. I was speaking with a friend and about a blog that I wrote for this week on having a wedding at a Kentucky horse farm, and he said it took 4 trucks all day long going and coming to the site just to get all the flowers there. So you want to be sure that you allow Saturday just pretty much for setup or on-site design. And that's one thing we'll talk about, our new designer blocks and our event blocks. That's such a challenge doing all that on-site design. Well, we have a solution for you. New blocks of foam that fit that purpose.
Sure, how are you keeping that all held together?
I'm sorry?
How are you keeping all that held together with the fence line?
By using a skewer, I angled the different foams at different angles to just give that artistic look. And then I took a skewer and ran through it, just like you use at home to do your kebabs. We're doing flour kebabs now. And that just holds those foam pieces in place. And it looks good. I mean, I did not in this one allow the skewers to show, but I could, because it gives that natural look. Right now, our new love of nature is guiding us to say it's all about all things natural. And that's the look that we get when we create natural arrangements. So a wood skewer just fits right into that look if I wanted to let it show. So now, it's more of an artistic design than just a traditional design. Remember that 80% of your business goes to 20% of your customers. Those 20% are the ones that buy. And so you want to be sure that you have something different for each one. Creating unique designs within a menu design, you can't do a different one for each one, but you can menu a section of designs. Let's say glass in the spring, and wood in the summer, and metal in the winter, and pottery for Christmas. Let's think of things like that. Menu those designs so you can order for those collections. And you could do that with Midnight Floral Foam. One of those menus could be artistic slices and such of designs. Plan those in advance. That saves you money instead of just trying to do designs as each one comes along. So planning makes profit. Now, we're going to need to move to our event ideas. So, are you excited? The event idea, that's where we make a lot of our money, so let's move. I was just speaking with someone the other day who said we all think that perhaps we don't have a lot of events in our area that we can sell to. Part of that problem is we haven't presented the ideas. A lot of times florists are bad to work out of their own wallet instead of the customer's wallet. So your job is to present a lot of ideas and use a lot of photos of things that are opulent. Create those designs, put them on your social media, and if you're not using social media, get in there because that's where everyone else is. Go to sites like DV's Instagram, DV Floral's Instagram, OASIS Instagram, Facebooks, and share those photos so that on your social pages, your customers are seeing upscale designs that tempts them to have that. So in our upscale designs at the moment, let's start with our spheres. I love to work with spheres, and this is one of the greater ways to do this is see with the Midnight Floral Foam, and it has the plastic backing. So now remember how sometimes it was tough with our spheres, they would rock on the tables, and you want to tuck these on the table underneath your designs and light them with candlelight. And there's a secret on the candlelight. When you're working with candlelight, if you wanted to light the spheres or the tablescape, you want to go 12 inches or less in votives or pillars, or even tapers, so you just kind of keep the light down at the table. And then if you want to go up higher so that you light the environment and lift the faces, and that just gets more important every year, then you want to go with 15 to 18 inches, and then that lifts the light up. And then if you want to light the room, you want to do 24 to 36, and that lights the atmosphere. So put it all together, and you have a party atmosphere on the table. And it all started with your Midnight Floral Foam spheres. So for fun on these, I took a water tube and just kept going all around and made my pattern. And then I can just pop some little flowers into place, adding them in really short. And then the circles seem to fill out where I don't have flowers. But can you hand me this Crospedia, please? Thank you, sir. This is a perfect flower for this look because the round shape of the little billy balls just fits right in with the circles on my sphere. It's an experience. So we're just popping flowers into place. It's almost like paint by number. Cutting those flowers at a good sharp cut, keeping them in our flower foods so that they have the longevity our customers are looking for. Did you know that's the #1 objection to buying flowers? So anytime you can overcome an objection in business, you can create a sale. So that's what we want to overcome by using our Floral flower foods that you can get at DVFlora.com. Go right there and place your order so you get a chance on that contest of the free floral tiles. Say your friend Sharon sent you. If you have your questions, now's a good time to ask them. One question I often get is, how far into the foam should I insert my flowers? You want to go about a 1/2 inch on a smaller flower to 1 inch on a larger, but you don't want to go down in. A lot of people think you go through the foam all the way and get the stem down to the water. The foam carries the water up to the top. No need for that. So you want to do just like enough to hold it in tight, maybe a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, but not enough to make it really tough. This would also be cool if we added like some bouillon all around it, or some of the colored bind wire would be cool to add to it. Now, if you think that's a cool shape, let me show you another one that I think is fun. Look at this one. Just pressing it into a wood palette. Look at those shapes that created. Isn't that fun? So when you're doing something artistic, a lot of weddings now are in museums or they're in gardens, and you're trying to do something especially artistic, or they're on horse farms. You're trying to do something especially artistic. This allows us to create that vibe. Okay, so working with the spheres, if you have, a lot of times people said, I can't really afford to do those for my weddings because by the time you fill that all around with roses or carnations or something, it adds up over my budget. Now, we're maxing the budget because we're just putting the flowers in place and allowing the foam to show. Now, if you do have heavy flowers in here, excuse me, if you do have heavy flowers and you want to be careful about the weight, I always like to use Floralock. And Floralock comes in a can. It has a little straw that fits into the nozzle, and you apply it to your foam. The foam actually absorbs the Floralock and holds the flowers in place. Now, one suggestion, be sure when you do that you're finished with the foam, because I'm serious when I say lock, because it does lock it in place. If you wanted to take a flower out, like in days later that perhaps it had wilted some, you just cut it off at the foam. If you wanted to add one, you'll have to glue it in with floral adhesive. But see how fun the centerpiece is? And all it was a textural sphere. Lots of fun things you can do. What ideas do you have? Make some suggestions to us about how we could do it. Like, for example, this one, I could take my biscuit cutters and create designs all over it. I'm going to have to start charging $85 an hour for this stuff. This pretty much feels like therapy. Our crafts class. Now, look at all the cuts in there and just go in between with your flowers, and in midnight black foam, it's going to look like an art piece. Okay, moving to our, moving along with our events, we need this one. This is truly one of my favorite products to use. I love the brick trays, and do you have the brick trays? I love the brick trays. Here they are. The long black brick trays that I showed you a few minutes ago, and I love the raquettes. The brick tray is the empty tray that you just put the foam in. Thank you. And then you can add, so here's a double, here's a single, and we also have a triple. And so you just add the foam in, and once it's saturated with water, it's the same color. The other product I love for a horizontal design are raquettes, and they're covered in green paper, and so they hold water in. But the reason I love this the best is that I don't have to fill in all of my flowers. Look at that. The foam shows, and it just actually looks like maybe it was the ground showing through, which gives that natural vibe. To create this particular design, what I did was run my branches, one this way of curly willow and one that way. I used my bind wire to bind them together, and then I used some Dixon pins to insert them into the foam, and that allowed it to hold in place. Then I could just create my line of flowers. You want to be careful that your line is strong, because the line is what gives the strength to the design. A static line is one like in a centerpiece where all of the flowers are all in a straight line. That gives a strength to that design visually. And a dynamic line is one that moves and waves and has drama to it, and that carries the eye through, and that gives energy to the design. So in the horizontal design of this nature, it has the energy, is the dynamic line. You can use lots of different branches. Red dogwood is really pretty with this. Pussy willow is really pretty with this. Blooming branches in the spring. But this creates a long design. The two design styles that are really popular right now are vertical and horizontal. And so when the horizontal designs work well when we use them like rehearsal dinners or family gatherings on the table. Notice that all my flowers are at different heights, that the face of every flower shows. Because we use Floral Life flower foods, especially Express, that we now don't have to cut the stems of the flowers. We can just remove the foliage, they'll be beneath the water, and put it into the water, the flowers directly into the water. think Valentine's Day and Mother's Day if you're not pre-cutting all of those roses. It's pretty amazing. Try it before the holidays so you know how much to use. Send it to Flora Life so you can have your particular water measured and they can tell you exactly what you need to use for flower foods to get optimal longevity for your flowers. And purchase your flowers at DVFlora so they're fresh and beautiful and ready to use. And then create a design such as this. Now another design that we'll use for this particular look,
Sharon, what is a Dixon pen?
a Dixon pen, I have one with me. It has metal in the center and 2 little wood prongs. You know what? If you'll come back and join me at 6:30 when we do another segment on Midnight Floral Foam Ideas, I'll have a Dixon pen with me and I can show you. Now this particular form, the floral sheet, is, do you have the, right there? The floral sheet is just one sheet. It doesn't have a base to it. Very often we are asked at Smithers Oasis for people who are doing like cutting out letters or for sympathy work or cutting out a shape or for a kid's birthday they're cutting out. This is our new sheet. There's no plastic adhered to it. It's a lot like the sculpting sheet. It just doesn't have the weight of the styrofoam at the back of it. So if you're just cutting something out, you don't need that backing. So I used the biscuit cutters again, but you can use cookie cutters and had cut holes in it. You can see where I've got the holes cut inside of it. And then added some water tubes so I can pop my flowers in them. This is a designer block, and so with the designer block, we are going to be able to use it to create designs that are larger, and you don't have to put as many of your blocks of Oasis together and then secure them. So that works great because you get the strength without it. So I can just pop flowers in. I can pop flowers into the tops of these little forms. And it just puts flowers on different heights throughout the design. Now the whole thing can be wet. You would have to place it on a tray, like in a hotel, those big hotel trays, or a plastic tray if you did it in an arrangement just directly on the table, because it will absorb the water. But if you didn't put water, if none of the shapes have water in them and you just had the water tube sticking in, you could avoid that. Okay, and the next design, so you can see how to make a tablescape just using the floral sheet. The next design is actually the table runner. And so a great way to make a table runner is to bring the sheets of flowers. We take the floral tile. This is the floral tile. If you want to, you could use the clear tape and tape around the sides of it if you like to add. What we did is we took a drill and like 3/4 inch in, we drilled holes right here so that I can put the cable ties to them. We did it at the top and the bottom. So I'll move this one over here, and the guys are going to help me, thank goodness. Alan and Buck are here because these things are heavy. So I'm going to insert my cable tie. Sorry for turning my back on you. Insert my cable tie. Just 8-inch black cable tie. And you can see that I've prepared the tile with flowers, and I've left some spaces because it's okay. Okay, Alan,
Yep.
This you want to do on site. Turn it down to the table. This is something you want to do on site, and you need some strong guys with you, or strong women with you. Okay, y'all gotta go down some. Yeah. And in just minutes, you can put your design together on the end of the table. So all of this design can be created in the store. and then put in place. So imagine that the table, oh wait, let's do it. Come out just a little. Get in the holes. Get this. Just okay. Now pop it through. So you would run the other tiles down the table and down the other side of the table. Catching, and it will hold in place just like this. So now you add your flowers into the edges and finish your design. So the design would come up here and go on through just like that. All right, let's pull it up and show you one more. We'll take that one away and we'll have that one.
Okay.
Now, the thing that I want to talk to you about while we're looking at this floral tile, which is for the wall, these can be placed on the wall with wood so that you have like the industrial strength, I'm drawing a blank, the industrial strength Velcro to go on the wood and then with it, or you can hang the tile from a board, or you can screw it into the holes and put it into place on a board. This is all important because these are products that you can use that have biodegradability of 1.5 years, 567 days, and in a U.S. landfill, it's gone. Then it's also the cool thing to do. Using your floral foam allows you to create designs such as this with ease as quickly as possible. Remember the things that were important to us? Time, labor, savings, using less flowers so that we meet our customers' needs. We were listening, you asked for those things, and we're providing it at Smithers Oasis, and the first place that you can get it is DVFlora.com. Place those orders now, so add your comment with your customer code and order now, and you can be one of 3 people who get free cases of floral foam. But the real winning is you can use these materials creating your designs. It has that great look, the little black dress look for everyday design. If you have questions, let me know, and we'll be back at 6:30. We hope you'll be there.